Hey there, and welcome to the Dynamics Hot Dish Podcast, serving up stories and knowledge on Dynamics 365 and the Power Platform. This is What's Hot in Dynamics. You're now joining Merlin Schweiger, Liz McGlennon, and Ashley Steiner.
Can we talk about how my water is just completely unavailable? And this is such a first world problem, but I am like literally in distress about how I cannot find my water.
What do you mean?
So I drink
You
this
mean
water.
like a bottle of water?
Oh,
Yeah.
I was picturing like you didn't have water running to your house.
No,
ice.
So I drink the sparkling ice, specifically the black raspberry. I drink probably 6 of those a day, not even lying. And I drink a couple Fiji. It's just flavored water. It's like it's carbonated flavor. It's not the best, but it's better than like soda, right? Or like diet, or like if you're drinking Mountain Dew, it's literally just naturally flavored water with some carbonation.
Sure.
Okay. Sure.
But I also have a Fiji here, so I drink normal water too. But there's like a national shortage of just that flavor of sparkling ice. And I have been to like every store here in my town. Amazon doesn't have it. Like, and if I go to a store and I see 2, I buy them. Like I haven't had, like today is the first time I've had any in stock in like 2 weeks. And this is such a first world problem. And I'm like seriously distressed about it because I've had to drink just regular water.
Can you just get a different flavor? Do you not like any other flavor?
Well, so like my backup flavor is the black cherry. And sometimes that one is a little, so now that the black raspberry is out, of course, now the black cherry is out, it's like this whole domino effect of like how my life is crumbling underneath me because I can't buy my water.
It really is a first world problem.
It is totally a first world problem, but it's like literally distressing me. Like I like am panicking because I can't buy the water I want to drink.
Now you're gonna hoard it. Like every time you see it, you're gonna buy it all.
Oh my gosh. It's supposed to be back in stock like the middle of August, and I'm gonna order like 17 cases from Amazon. And
You're going to be like that Karen that was stockpiling toilet paper a year and a half ago.
I actually do have a lot of toilet paper too, but everyone else like buys it, and it makes me feel like I have to buy it. You know what I mean?
No, that's just
You don't
piling
ever
on
feel
top
like
of the
that?
problem. It's just making it worse for everyone.
I know. But yeah, no, the water is like really stressing me out. I'm not even kidding. Like this is the first one I've had today in like 2 weeks.
So it's a treat now. It'll make it more
Wow.
special.
No, I rather would just have it every day.
See, now I'm going to have to send this video to my friend in South Africa who was without power, electrical power for a week because his substation blew up.
So like I said, it is a completely 100% a first world problem. I have no shame in admitting that. And I also understand the whole plastic bottle, like that weighs on my conscience a little bit, like the amount of recycling that I have. But I do recycle, but it does weigh on my conscience. If I could make that at home and it tastes exactly the same, I would do that.
Have you tried like a soda stream equivalent?
It wouldn't taste the same though. Like it never tastes the
But
same.
have you tried it?
I have not.
Maybe you'd like it better.
I would have to buy the equipment, and then what if I don't like it?
You could borrow my soda stream and then give it
when
back.
I come visit,
What?
when I come visit sometime.
Yeah, yes, we can test it out.
Sweet. But it does weight, like I hope, like I don't want people to be like, oh my God, she's so like I feel the weight of the water bottles, but it's one of those first world problems that I just can't step away from.
Fun fact, I get water from my faucet and I put it in a metal bottle.
So I do that too, but it's bottled water. Like it's purified water from my fridge, and I have a metal cup I put that in. But the faucet water, like the tap water here, tastes awful because it's from Lake Michigan.
Ew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't drink that either.
No. And like they say, like, oh, it's healthy and it's fine for you. It just tastes bad, which is what they also tell you in Arizona about the water. But I'm like, I don't trust that. Like,
Sure, that's also what they told the people in Flint about their water.
that's what I'm saying. It's like, I'm just cautious about it. So, I mean, not that I encourage people to buy bottled water. I do have a purifier in my fridge that I like to use, but
That works.
yeah.
If you're really that concerned, get a Berkey. I don't know if you've seen these things, but they're like this like giant metal drum water filter. It's like premium grade water filters. They're, I don't know, like $300 or something for this giant countertop thing. But supposedly you can take like the scummiest like pond water, pour it in the top, and you will get crystal clear, perfectly drinkable water out the bottom.
That's
We
basically how they create bottled water.
Pretty much.
Sorry, Liz.
we got a really handy water filter when we went camping, like backpacking, and it was like super easy and it tasted great because it was like out of a stream. But you just like, it's just a little filter and it's like 2 seconds later and it's ready to drink. It was amazing.
I am open to all of these ideas and I will definitely be writing them down because like I'm not one to like try to be wasteful, but yeah, the water has me just, I'm hooked to it.
Just gotta get your fix. Gotta get that
Yeah.
sparkling ice, man.
Yeah, it's kind of how it is. I'm not gonna lie. Have not felt like myself over the last couple weeks. So
Wow.
I know I feel like I'm gonna be real judged after this this podcast by people. Everyone has something like that though, like a thing that they like to have, like a food or a drink or something. Like Starbucks, a lot of people do that with Starbucks. Don't judge me so harshly. Look at yourselves first.
I like coffee and LaCroix water. So there. Does that make you feel better?
Well, I just feel like you guys are staring at me like,
Merlin,
oh God,
what are
maybe you should give some
what
of
are
that
your
water.
addictions?
My addictions, probably petroleum. I do have a V8 vehicle. There's no reason for me to drive a V8, but I have it and I like it.
What kind of car do you have?
It's a BMW M3.
Damn,
The
really?
V8 engine. So it moves. That's what I like about it.
I drive a Chevy for economy uses.
I mean, in fairness, it is a 12-year-old car at this point, but
Yeah.
it is
But I think
not
that's
exactly fuel efficient.
I think that's one of the things is we're all lucky enough to have something like that we can enjoy. We're lucky enough to have that.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
we're
I
lucky
can
enough to complain about not being able to get our sparkling ice water.
You guys don't even know the level of like complaints around my friends and family that know about this.
It's hilarious. Should we talk about something else?
Probably.
Yeah, we can. We can talk about industry accelerators for
Let's do
dynamics.
it.
Which one do we want to start with? Or should we talk about just why to use them in general?
Or what are they?
Let's start with what?
Yeah.
What are the industry accelerators, Ashley?
Oh, Merlin, I thought you were going to answer.
Oh.
Why don't I
fine.
always answer the first question? I always answer the first one. Let's go with you today, Merlin.
Fine, we can go with me today. What are the industry accelerators? Well, that's a great question, Ashley. Thank you for asking me. The industry accelerators are essentially pre-built data schemas that Microsoft has developed in conjunction with partnerships in various industries. So in most cases, I think they've been talking to like Microsoft partners that have lots of customers in specific industry verticals. But I think they've also worked with like their own customers in various industries. So like for I don't know who they talked to necessarily, but they had like a bunch of financial services accelerators, and they talked to like some of their banking customers and some partners who did lots of banking work to come up with the banking accelerator as an example. So they're just pre-built data schemas, and in most cases, I think they also come with apps, and usually with a little bit of demo data if you want to put some demo data in there. But they're just a starting point. They're usually not ready to go out of the box, but they're a better starting point than we ever used to have. I don't know, Microsoft tried this like a decade ago, and their accelerators at the time were kind of trash, and nobody used them because if you tried to install them, then you sort of boxed yourself into a corner. You could never upgrade. It was a whole big thing, where now they're taking a different approach. So.
It's really just a solution that you import on top of your existing Dynamics environment. So you spin up a Dynamics environment and then you add that accelerator on top of it. So you can use the base Dynamics if you still needed things like organizations, accounts, contacts, that kind of stuff, and leads. But what I really like about it is that it is just that solution that sits on top, and it basically adds all that customization that you would have to add anyways, right? So I think of like nonprofit, because that's the one I've actually worked with. Like you want to track donations and you want to track, people not tied to an organization, but then you also want to track organizations, you want to track events, you want to track, you have all these things that are not like built into Dynamics. And so you before would have to like think of everything that you'd want and then create those custom tables. And now this just adds those all into you, and then you can configure them. It's easier, I think, to start with something than building from scratch. It saves a lot of that customization time.
Yeah, it's true. It gives you all the relationships, the tables, the fields, or at least most of the fields that you probably want. Now you've at least got, 80 to 90% of your data work is done.
What I also find cool about them is like they do come with out of the box processes and reporting. So it's not necessary. There are some, I don't want to speak to all, but they come with, some of them do come with like, hey, these, like you said, are relationships, but it also says like, this is the pipeline, or this is how, like, this is a process that I've already put into place that you can follow. And the reporting for me is huge, because we always ask people like, what do you want reported? And nobody knows until there's data. So if it comes with something out of the box, it gives you something to go off of. So I think that that's really cool too.
It's true. I think it also helps from a competitive perspective when you have a little bit more like reporting or process or something else that's built into it, because a lot of the competitors, and I'll also use the nonprofit accelerators example because I've been working with that a bunch lately, including the fundraising and engagement app that sits on top of it. If you're competing against, say, Blackbaud and their Razers Edge product, which has sort of been the gold standard for donation nonprofit management for decades, their approach is, I think Salesforce is generally similar, is here is how you do fundraising. Here's the system that we built, and here's how to do it. That's annoying for a well-established nonprofit that already knows how to do it. But if you're like just getting off the ground or relatively small and you don't know the best practices around fundraising, it could be really helpful to have somebody come in and be like, here's your fundraising process. Just do this and you'll raise more money. You're like, oh, great. I didn't know that. So with Microsoft also providing some degree of that, then that helps sort of leverage that competitive advantage over Razers Edge or over Salesforce or whoever else.
I've heard there's an integration out of the box with Razers Edge. And so I didn't know if that was still a thing now that they've come out with that nonprofit accelerator, but I heard before that you could connect those. So I think that that's also somewhere to look for, if you are like at the Razers Edge is like more your thing, like, can you overlap it somewhere with Dynamics if that's what you're using as your backend system?
I think that you can. I think you can. There's at least like Power Platform connectors, I think, for Razers Edge.
Yeah. One of the other things that I like about the accelerators is it gives the ISV world like a whole new place to put their tools. Like, so you can, put the nonprofit accelerator on top of your environment, but maybe you want some things like you want to take money, you want to process money, or you want to, there's all sorts of things. So it gives this whole new path where ISVs can just put something up on AppSource and you can download it and you can just plug it and it fits right into that process. So it gives you that whole, like from end to end, and, implementation where you're like, it's already pre-built. You're not custom building things. And I think that the custom building part is something that a lot of people want to get away from.
To your cost, right? The more you have to custom build, the more it's going to cost.
Well, and it's harder to upgrade. To your point before, like with the first accelerators, like it's harder to upgrade. You might run into more problems, but if you're getting something that an ISV is putting out there, then they're responsible for making sure that it's in theory.
That's their problem.
Yeah. So I was going to say, should we talk about what accelerators are available?
Yes.
Because obviously it has only specific industries right now. Automotive, which is one I didn't even know that Microsoft had.
That was actually one of the first ones, I think.
Okay. I've just never worked in the automotive industry. So education is another big one, I think, for them, because a lot of education facilities run the same way. Healthcare was a was a large one, I thought, for them, but I found out that it's now deprecated.
So is it
Interesting.
deprecated because they're turning it into something else?
You know,
They're
when I
still
read
pushing the cloud for healthcare, I think.
I know when I don't know how this relates to cloud for healthcare, because in the notes it said it was officially deprecated as of November 2020, and you could no longer download it after June 30th of 2021. So you could not even download it now if you wanted to.
Maybe they're rolling that into the cloud for health as like a paid offering and not just
Maybe.
a free accelerator. That could be.
And maybe they are. I don't know. The notes didn't say, or maybe I should have read further down in the wonderful Microsoft documentation that we all love. But yeah, I found that really fascinating because I feel like a lot of people are using the healthcare one or could use it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that education one, I think, only just got released recently.
I think that was
I
the latest one.
Yeah, I just learned about it the other week. I was like, oh, cool! Like, I've been missing this for years and years. Now it's finally here. Try to sell it to schools.
Media and entertainment is another one, which I found the most fascinating just because I think it's the one that we can all relate to the most. So like sporting events or like events, venues, things like that, like your ticket sales or things like that one, doing like just looking into that one, I was like, this one.
And there's a lot of sports teams that use Dynamics too, like the Timberwolves, the Twins. I know a lot out of state do, so I'm kind of like curious.
The Packers.
Are they using the accelerator? Or did they build something before it was available?
Probably. I know the Packers have something custom, just because they've been using it longer than that. But I wouldn't know about any of the other, and I know the Brewers, I mean, we're talking about local teams, right? Like I'm sure that teams around the country do this, but the Brewers used to have Dynamics and moved away from it because Salesforce had a better media offering than Dynamics did at the time. So I think that having this accelerator also puts Microsoft into a position to be able to play out in the field. No pun intended on that. I cracked myself up.
The last one is telecom.
Yep. Which I know nothing about.
Yeah,
we used to work for a telecom company,
actually. I know, but we didn't work for the telecom part of
it, but it still was a telecom company.
I know it was a telecom company, but we worked in a very specific branch of managed services.
Yeah.
Hosting. Which I do know what that is.
I thought they also had some financial services ones. Did they?
It was financial wasn't on the list. I don't. So, and this is like, I think just one of the other things is like, I'm curious with that healthcare one, if you did have it previously downloaded, onto and out of that solution, is it like, what is the support plan for that going forward? Like if you upgrade and stuff, like hopefully, I'm not sure. So like the financial one, you said that, and I was like, that's not on my list. And so I was kind of surprised, or maybe it's rolled into something else.
Or maybe it was talked about but never released. Who knows?
Maybe you're releasing NDA data or information that you have.
Probably. I don't think I have any data that I could release that way, but maybe, sure.
Merlin, didn't you say other than the nonprofit one that there was another one that you had been working with recently?
So not really. I've been working with, and this is tricky, fundraising and engagement, which is an app that you can get on AppSource, sits on top of the nonprofit accelerator, but isn't the same as the nonprofit accelerator. So like it uses the nonprofit accelerator data schema, and you can still get that by itself from GitHub. But if you go to AppSource and get fundraising and engagement, it's like a whole different thing that sits on top and gives you also a bunch of like Azure components that you then also have to deploy to Azure to manage a lot of the, I'm pretty sure, the behind the scenes on like money. So like gifts and donations and pledges and memberships and sponsorships and anything else that you're sort of like keeping track of the money, or like you have to run a process on a regular basis to charge credit cards or integrate with the payment gateway or something. Like all of that stuff is being handled through a bunch of Azure components that you have to deploy in Azure as well. And I think they did basically the same thing with the Cloud for Health, where they started deploying like a specific app sitting on top of the accelerator. And so then it's interesting that they're now deprecating the accelerator. I'm presuming it's because they're sort of rolling it all into this other app thing. And so now it's making me wonder if they're going to do the same thing with nonprofit and other ones or
Well,
not.
so the media and entertainment has a sample Power Portal app, like already pre-built. So it comes like, and you just have to like, I guess probably just configure it for the way that you want to use it, but it comes pre-built with the tool, which I think could save money on like portal. Because if you think of like Ticketmaster, right, you're logging into like a portal to see what tickets you have. I think that would be really valuable, just to have that kind of pre-built, at least the outline of it.
It's true. It's interesting. I feel like a lot of these scenarios actually have good portal like use cases. And my experience so far is that the Microsoft accelerators are pretty weak on the portal front. It's like, yeah, you could make a portal, but we're not really going to talk about it so much.
Well, so that's why I found it interesting the media comes with one.
That is interesting.
Because, well, and I mean, that one specifically, like you think of Ticketmaster, you think of StubHub, like you log into something, but the nonprofit, I know we keep going back to that, but that's the one we both have the most experience with. Like if you want to make a donation online, or you want to have a recurring donation, or you want to register for an event, or there's like, say there's an auction, like you have to do all of that through a portal of some sort. And I worked on the nonprofit one. It's been probably 2-3 years. And there was nothing just out of the box for that. You would have had to build it from scratch.
They have some slightly better answers now. Like they've got some predefined tools that you ought to use, but there's still no like, here's a portal that you can just drop out there and start getting donations from. Like it just doesn't work.
I feel like that would put like that's probably the next step, or it has to be, right? Make everything from end to end useful.
Yeah, I think so.
So I'm curious for like existing customers, people that already are on Dynamics, like, do you ever see like, or could you like imagine a scenario where someone adds one of these into their existing system? Or do you guys think they're more for new clients that are deploying Dynamics for the first time?
I'll let Marilyn answer first.
It's a really good question, Liz. I think it depends, of course.
Always.
Marilyn.
Cop out answer.
So we actually, in the not too distant past, like in the last few months, completed a project moving somebody off of a kind of base sales implementation to an implementation based on the nonprofit accelerator. So we actually essentially re-implemented them on the nonprofit accelerator. I think it would be difficult to drop the accelerator in unless you're adding functionality that you haven't already built out. If you've already built something out, then you're going to have to go through some sort of migration re-implementation process if you want to move on to the architecture that Microsoft has defined. Because otherwise, like, okay, I dropped this accelerator in, now I've got a gifts table, but I already built the gifts table. And so now I've got 2 gifts tables. If I want to use the new one, I'm going to have to go through that work to like move everything across. And I think unless you're adding new functionality that you don't already have, or unless whatever you have is not working for you, I think it's going to be difficult to see a return on that investment.
So I agree with what Merlin said after. It depends. I don't agree that it depends. I think that it is like much easier for somebody who's doing a new implementation to use it, or if you're going to do a re-implementation. I think so, because we have, I would consider, we have an ISV industry accelerator at my company. You know, we sell, in theory, we're in the office equipment industry. We sell printers. And so they have this accelerator where you drop in their solution and it has like the equipment field, service calls, orders, invoices. I mean, it has all of that. So, and it's there. So it's that ISV version, right? But Microsoft is taking some of those over. And if Microsoft came out with an office equipment, like as if they ever would, but that kind of accelerator, there's no way without doing a complete re-implementation and data migration that we could just drop it into our system. Even if it was better, right? So I've used a lot of environments that have what I would consider accelerators, based on the industry. And I think it would be really difficult. But so to Merlin's point, though, let's say that we were just using it to track leads and opportunities. Then we want to connect it to our ERP system, and Microsoft has the accelerator. We have nothing existing today that accelerator is using. Then I think it's pretty easy to drop it in. But if you've already customized your system because it wasn't available, I think it would be damn near impossible, because
it'd be pretty messy.
well, I mean, like, who would want to do that project? I'm sure some consulting company would love to bill for that project, but I just think it would be a nightmare.
Yeah,
well, it's basically, it's a re-implementation, really.
Yeah. The reason I put the depends on there, Ashley, was because it depends on if it's additive or replacement functionality. If you've never sold
It's
car
just a
parts
cop
before,
out.
and you decide to be like, oh, we're going to sell automotive parts, like, yeah, you could add that accelerator to your existing environment and be fine.
Did you say stole or sold?
Sold.
Oh my God. I thought you were talking about stealing car parts for a second, Merlin. And I was like, do we need to have like a middle of the podcast therapy session?
Sure. So if you're stealing car parts, but then you need to resell them.
No, I agree with what you're saying, but I think that like once you hit the re-implementation, that's something, I mean, it's completely different than what you have right now. Like I'm maybe I just view it differently.
I agree.
Okay. Liz looks so uncomfortable right now with our bickering. And the fact that you admitted on the podcast that you steal auto parts.
Just saying, if I did, they would do me no good unless I was reselling them. So I might need the automotive accelerator.
Okay, what else should our listeners know about these accelerators?
Oh, fun little sidetrack there. Yeah, Merlin, do you have anything else to like?
I mean, I think the key is it's probably going to save you configuration time. And I'm going to say probably there. Ashley's going to yell at me, but I'm going to say probably because, like, using again the nonprofit accelerator, it adds a lot. Like, there are a lot of tables. If you look at the ERD for it, like, there are a lot of boxes and a lot of lines. And I'm not even convinced that I know what half the boxes do yet. So I feel like there's a learning curve there to be like, okay, you're getting this accelerator and it's going to give you all this stuff that you probably need, but you also need to spend the time to learn everything that it's given you to understand how it all fits together so that you know how to then apply it to your business. So it's not just like just drop this in and start selling car parts. You're going to drop it in and then be like, okay, how do I fit the business processes that I already have into this data model that it's given me?
So
sorry, Liz.
I was going to say, like, to that point, Merlin, like, do you ever feel like it's too much? Like, if it's a really small organization that maybe it's giving them too much functionality and it's too complicated for where they're at. I've heard that about some of these before.
Sure. I mean, but I think that's no different than with any of the Dynamics modules. Like, okay, if you don't need all of field service, but you just want to keep track of work orders, just build a work orders table by yourself and call it a day, right? If you don't need everything else. So I don't see that as being any different, but yes, that's also.
So just because you're in one of these industries doesn't mean that this is the right solution for you necessarily.
Right.
Or you might be running business in a different way. Go ahead, Ashley.
I was gonna say, I like shockingly agree with everything that Merlin just said, because when working with the nonprofit accelerator that I did a couple of years ago, they came in and said, what are these, and like, well, they're tables now. What are these tables and what do they do? And I was like, it's a good question. You don't know because it's your industry. Like, how do you not know what this is supposed to be for? So I think that there's a lot of learning and research that has to go in for like how it's one of those things where how Microsoft intends for you to use it and how you actually use it. It's one of those situations. So learning how Microsoft intends for you to use it is really important in this topic or this conversation, because they built that way for a reason. But Merlin, you said something else about, I was going to say the same thing about field service, because Adam actually touched on this in our field service podcast, was like, if you have less than so many techs or, that kind of thing, or you're doing so little service you might be able to build a power app, or use, that can solve some of that for you. So maybe you don't need the media and entertainment. I wrote this down because it shocked me. It adds over 60 tables to your environment, which is a ridiculous amount of tables. So if you're like, just want to track like what tickets and events people are going to, that's like what, 3-4 entities. So like you might be able to take like the theory of an youth accelerator and scale it down to what you actually need. And I thought that Adam made a really good point on that on the Field Service podcast.
Yeah, it's a good point. Great connection making.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Thanks.
Awesome. Any other thoughts? Any other questions, Liz, on your side? You asked some good questions. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining today.
Thank you for listening to the Dynamics Hot Dish podcast. For additional content and previous episodes, check out our website at dynamicshotdish.com, follow us on Twitter at dynamicshotdish, and subscribe to our podcast for notifications. Thanks. See you next time.